Welcome back. So I wanted to do a video on a thread that I tweeted up this morning about weight management for top amateurs. And this video goes with a prior article I wrote called Top Amateur Nutrition. And the idea here is that we have different weights and different body compositions depending on what our goals are for the block of training that we're in. So I'm just going to dig in here because it's going to be easier if I show you a picture. So, all right, let's just show that. Okay, maybe later. So what we've got here, that's 2 years of morning weigh-ins. And I do the same thing every single morning. Get up, empty my bladder, jump on the scale. It's a Wi-Fi scale and it just pushes the number up to training peaks and I'm done. And what you'll see is there's different phases of the year. In the winter, I tend to be heavier. And then when I'm in a focused block of training, this line right here, let me just show you, says strongest training weight. And this concept of the strongest training weight came many years ago when Mark Allen was coaching me. And he said, hey, trying to constantly be trying to get leaner and lighter is impacting recovery. It's impacting your vibe, the quality of your training. What you should do is you should set a floor, a weight floor, and you should never, ever go below that floor. And your floor and my floor will be different depending on our body composition and what we notice with our training. So the idea was, well, how do we know we're at the right level, this strongest training weight? Well, here's a couple things that you can look for. You're not going to be hungry all the time. So you're going to have a low level of background cravings. And the reason is you're not depleted. You're fueling yourself appropriately. Another one is sleep. You're going to be sleeping well. And when you're well fed, you sleep well. Third one, little cuts, nicks, cuticles, they're going to be healing quickly. And you're going to notice that your skin is in good shape. When you start to get run down and you're low on energy, everything, your immune system gets down regulated and everything's going to heal slower for you. So that's kind of the background. And then you can see for these short periods of time, I drop down to, race weight, maybe go a little leaner. But, it's really marginal gains at that point. Your strongest training weight is going to be a very effective place for you to stay. Now, what's this here? This is fastest recovery weight. So something I noticed last year, there was a study published with Christian Blumenfeld. And I had a look in and I noticed that he runs a very high BMI, body mass index, when he's at his training camps. So it was an analysis of kind of multiple years, but there was a detailed focus on this training camp he did. And they did doubly labeled water analysis to calculate his burn, and they were also tracking his food. But the thing I noticed was, hey, here's a world-class, very fast endurance athlete who can do a tremendous amount of training, recover from it, and absorb it, and he's running a very high BMI relative to everybody else. Now, this isn't new, but the scale of the increase surprised me. Just for those of you familiar with, for a male, BMI between 20 and 25 would be kind of like normal. So he's actually in the slightly, he's not obese, he's in the slightly above normal, slightly overweight category, moving from 25.5 to 26.5. Now, I've noticed that I tend to run best when I'm in the low 20s, but I'm definitely not training best. That's not my strongest training weight, and it doesn't take much to throw me off my game. So I'm a little on edge when I'm that light. So I got to thinking, why don't I run myself a bit heavy? And it wasn't crazy. I moved myself up to about 24.1, 24.2 BMI across the winter. So let me show you that. So that's in this one. So that's the last year, and you can see me come up across the winter and across the spring. And then you'll see a dip here. So coming into my spring races, what I was curious about is something Olaf Alexander, Christian's coach, said was that when Christian loses weight, he loses VO2, both absolute and relative. And I don't want to do that. And that's part of the reason why Christian stays heavier, larger. So what I did as this drop, so this is the last month, so I dropped a couple kilos. And what I did over that period was I did testing when I was heavy and I did testing when I was lighter. A Pmax test, which is 3-minute intervals. You go up by 40 watts a step. You see how far you can get. And on the last step, if you don't make it all the way, you get a proportional score. And the other one is just a straight ahead VO2 max test where you do 15 minutes of kind of high zone 1 and then 10 minutes of tempo. You rest for 5 minutes and then you do a 3-minute best effort. Now, despite losing the weight, my Pmax went from 320 to 340 watts, and then my best 3 minutes went from 350 to 370 watts. So my performance was maintained when my weight came down. So interesting. Now I'm not particularly light now. I took myself down to that strongest training weight. I didn't try and go down to race weight this early in the year. But I wanted to pass this along to you for you to consider experimenting, because a lot of endurance athletes have this mindset that it's always better to be lighter. And very few people test as often as I do and as often as the Norwegians do. So you're forming these opinions in a void. And a great way to track is your relatively high intensity, short duration bike efforts. If you're losing VO2, it's going to show there. It might not necessarily show on your running efforts, because earlier I said when I'm depleted and I'm too light, I can actually run pretty well. But you'll see it in your high-end bike numbers. So 3-minute duration, 6-minute duration, that kind of 3 to 6 minute duration, it'll really turn up there. And if you're a triathlete, you'll lose your power in the water. You'll have no strength. You might be able to sprint for a little bit, but you'll really notice a loss of power. And that's part of the reason, because it's technique and it's that absolute VO2 when you're in the water, but it's very technique oriented. So if you're a good swimmer, you'll be able to feel that. Most of us, though, we're going to have to look to the bike. Now, you see me drop weight relatively quickly and relatively easily. A couple things on that for you, because I know it'll be of interest. Now, my metabolic fitness is high right now. I have been training very consistently, and I have been doing a lot of green zone training. So I'm flexible with my fuel choices. So it's relatively easy for me to burn fat as a fuel source. And the changes I make are on the days where my volume's down. I'm not using any sports nutrition, and I'm restricting the liquid sports nutrition. I find when I'm pouring that stuff down my throat, it was very effective if I'm working at a high work rate, but I do have a tendency to put fat on. So that's something for you to watch. The other thing I'll do if I'm looking to lose a little bit of weight is, if it's a lower volume day and it's not a long workout, I will eat breakfast after that first workout of the day. And I keep my core nutrition the same. So the amount of calories in that core, those meals that I eat, I'm not restricting at all. What I'm doing is I'm bringing down the sports nutrition. I talk about this in detail in the Top Amateur Nutrition article. And Ian and I put a little case study together for you if you're the kind of person that likes grams of carbohydrate, how much you're eating, and all that. There's a series called the Burn series as well on the Endurance Essentials Greatest Hits section of the website if you really want to kind of get stuck in. And that's it. So keep it simple. Final tip, never, ever, ever lose the last kilo. It's never worth it. Always leave yourself a margin, because fundamentally it's better to be strong than run the risk of depletion. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next time.